he is he lived in Richfield. I think you guys, someone might know him. He I met him once at a Elms Club. Veterans would get together. Wonderful guy. Talked so modest. He was a flamethrower, and that's the picture there. Is the flamethrower, and he was one of the guys that was on the hill when they raised the first flag. And the first flag, incidentally, folks, is the one that everybody cheered. I don't know if you know the story, but these guys put a little tiny flag up, and I saw that go up. We were on the way back for more ammunition, and you could see it from a tank, and everybody's hooping and hollering. Well, about 4 hours later, our tank was loaded with gas and ammunition. We were going back up to the north end of the island, and our tank commander got on the intercom and says, "Hey, there's a bigger flag up there." And we said, "Oh, you know, it was no big deal." And that's the flag that was the most famous picture in the Second World War. But and he went for years without getting any credit. He was up there, and he was one of the guys. Now, what I thought I'd like to show you a picture of my favorite dog. Not my dog. But he was asking the question, he said, "You really want me to go on that island and sniff out the enemy?" We had a whole company, we didn't, but the 5th Marine Division had a company of dogs, guys that were with dogs, and they sniffed it out, the enemy. I don't know how they did it, but I thought it'd be worth mentioning it in this slide because that's not my dog. It's a very shocking picture. The dog is very surprised. But that's what I put it. But anyway, I wanted to point out the fact that they did have a whole bunch of dogs on that island. And I had written up something about it. He didn't want to go. And he was reluctant about combat, but a couple of cans of Spam. There's that first flag. Now, Chuck Lindbergh's not in this picture, but he is standing over here. I've got another picture where he was standing with his flamethrower. And on that, when the snipers came out and picked off a couple of guys, he was one of the flamethrowers, went over and put them all in it. That was an interesting thing. So, hellish flag. Now there's Joe Rosenthal. He's the guy that took the picture. And, you know, I read an article that he wrote, more or less of a book. But one of the things he was complaining about, they wouldn't let him get over on the other side where they were raising that flag because he wanted to be on the other side so he could see their faces. Well, there were snipers over there, and they wouldn't let him over there. So he was sort of downhill a little bit, looking upwards. And in this story, he was real disgusted. He didn't think that was a good picture at all. Come to find out, and you know, there's quite a story on it. I wish I had time to go into it. But, so here's, that's a Ronald Reagan statement, and I guess being an old Marine, I can't argue with that one. But if anybody wants to argue with it, go ahead. I'm not sure exactly where we are yet on these slides, but I don't pay much attention to these notes. I'm not sure. There's our reluctant soldier. You can't spam to satisfy him. Now let's see. Here's a story that needs to be cleared up. The New York Times, right after the war, were interviewing Joe Rosenthal. And they asked Joe Rosenthal if this picture was, if that picture was posed. And no, he didn't. He said no. Well, then the reporter then saw this picture And he said, well, was that posed? And he said, yes, of course. Then the New York Times printed in headlines, raising the flag of Iwo is a hoax. And the reporter didn't get it wrong, the reporter made it wrong. But if anybody knows anything about the New York Times, you know that's the way they report things. And they're still doing it today. I don't want to get into politics, but there's enough said of it. But that picture right there, of course, was posed. And that was the whole bunch. Everybody was up there. And I'm sure that was after they cleaned up the snipers.
Yeah.
This is a picture taken up in the northern out of the island. There are a lot of foliage and canyons and steep things. Our tanks couldn't even get anywhere near. So we never saw much about that northern part of the island where the most vicious fighting was taking place. But we could fire from a distance, but even then we weren't too effective. That is a Weasel. It's a little track vehicle that saved thousands of lives. Just unbelievable. They carried wounded across that island, and they were light and they were fast, and when we lost our track on the 28th day, we blew our tank up so the enemy wouldn't get it, and then we hooked a right on the Weasel back to the beach. And that's why we went back there and wanted to go to the tank, and there were 11 left. And we didn't give them. Getting down close to the end. And Iwo Jima, the hellish battle, and then the flag goes. Now, there's some print down there, and I know it, I'll tell you what it says. It is it's a story. We didn't think we'd won anything until a B-29 came in. We had our hatches open, we could hear it rumbling around, and it circled. I don't know how many times, but it circled and circled. And finally, it landed. It's the first B-29 to land on Iwo Jima, and the Seabees hadn't even got the runway finished yet. It was called Dynamite, and it had been hit with anti-aircraft, and the bomb bay doors had been lodged open, and they couldn't shut them. What happened is he was burning so much gas with all that wind resistance, there was no way he could have made Tinian, and they would have had a ditch. Now, he might have made it within 100 miles of Tinian, and the Air Force had these big Dumbos, seaplanes, and they could pick people up. But if I was the pilot, I think I'd have done what he did. There's Iwo, we need a land. But that was the first, and it was 9th day on Iwo Jima. They hadn't even been there. They were still being fired upon. And they came in. Now, there's one more thing I'm going to tell you about this, the innovation of a bunch of Marines. Seabees and the Marines got along pretty good. We always were good buddies. We'd eat their food, it was better than ours. And we'd go steal stuff from them, because they had it and we didn't. And so the Marines decided to go and make bombs that they could throw down in the hole that were bigger than a hand grenade, so they couldn't throw them back. So they found a way of bringing the 14-foot 1x4s or 1x6s or whatever they were, and on Iwo Jima there was only one source. The Seabees had to have them. So they went over, and I guess they negotiated, and they were able to get a bunch of them, and they are building these in a bomb crater. One of the B-24 bomb craters that bombed Iwo before we got there. So one day we're going back up toward the front, where we didn't know where we were going because we hadn't been assigned anything. And these guys hailed us. They had 4 or 5 of these all made. And what they did, put 6 pounds of TNT on the end of a board, fasten them down tight, and with a primer cord, I think it is, I'm not an explosive art, primer cord. Anybody know what primer cord? Okay, well, that's what they used. And they could, they go up to a hill, to a hole, and shove it down there. And as soon as they got as far as they could get, they detonate it, And this one hand grenade the Japanese couldn't throw back.
Yeah.
And there was, those had enough explosive in them, it would actually cave in the whole cave. And they did a great job on it. And when they hailed a ride from us, and we thought, where are they going with that thing? And they put them on the cattails, on the catwalk, and they were hanging on all over the tank. And when we got as far as we could get, we couldn't get in these canyons. And they all said, "Thanks a lot," you know, away they go, just like somebody hitchhiking. Great life.